Alright guys, so we are on the second half of chapter 4. Remember when we left off, Lily and Rosalind had walked into August's house, and they met August and June and May, who are all sisters. August is the one who makes honey, and June was playing the violin when they walked in, and she seems a little bit uptight. And so far, May has been described as kind of having a crazy woman grin. So when we left off, August had just agreed to allow them to stay with them. And she said that they had the cots out in the honey house, so that's where they were going to stay. And even though June seemed to protest a little bit, you could tell that August was the one in charge. And that's where we left off, so here we go. We got situated in the cane bottom rockers while May stood guard, grinning her crazy woman grin. She had great big muscles in her arms, I noticed. "How come y'all have names from a calendar?" Rosalind asked her. "Our mother loved spring and summer," May said. "We had an April, too, but she died when she was little." May's grin dissolved, and out of nowhere she started humming "Oh, Susanna," like her life depended on it. Rosalind and I stared at her as her humming turned into hard crying. She cried like April's death had happened only this second. Finally, August returned with a tray of 4 jelly glasses, orange slices stuck real pretty on the rims. "Oh, May, honey, you go on out to the wall and finish your cry," she said, pointing her to the door and giving her a nudge. August acted like this was the sort of normal behavior happening in every household in South Carolina. "Here you go, orangeade." I sipped. Rosalind, however, downed hers so fast she let out a belch that the boys in my old junior high would have envied. It was unbelievable. August pretended she didn't hear it while I stared at the velvet footstool and wished Rosalind could be more cultured. "So you're Lily and Rosalind," August said. "Do you have last names?" "Rosalind Smith and Lily Williams," I lied, and then launched in. "See, my mother died when I was little, and then my father died in a tractor accident last month on our farm in Spartanburg County. I don't have any other kin around there, so they were going to send me to a home." August shook her head. Rosalind shook hers too, but for a different reason. Kin is a good word to have down for your vocab list today. "Rosalind was our housekeeper," I went on. "She doesn't have any family but me, so we decided to go up to Virginia to find my aunt. Except we don't have any money, so if you have any work around here that we could do while we're here, maybe we could earn a little before heading on. We aren't really in a hurry to get to Virginia." Rosalind glared at me. For a minute there was nothing but ice clinking in our glasses. I hadn't realized how sweltering the room was, how stimulated my sweat glands had gotten. I could actually smell myself. I cut my eyes over to the Black Mary in the corner and back to August. She put down her glass. I had never seen eyes that color. Eyes the purest shade of ginger. "I'm from Virginia myself," she said, and for some reason this stirred up the current that had moved in my limbs when I had first entered the room. "All right, then. Rosalind can help May in the house, and you can help me and Zach with the bees. Zach is my main helper, so I can't pay you anything, but at least you'll have a room and some food till we can call your aunt and see about her sending some bus money." "I don't exactly know her whole name," I said. "My father just called her Aunt Bernie. I never met her." "Well, what were you planning to do, child? Go to every door in Virginia?" "No, ma'am. Just Richmond." "I see," said August. And the thing was, she did. She saw right through it. That afternoon, heat built up in the skies over Tiburon. Finally, it gave way to a thunderstorm. August, Rosalind, and I stood on the screen porch that jutted off the back of the kitchen and watched the clouds bruise dark purple over the treetops, and the wind whip the branches. We were waiting for a let-up so August could show us our new quarters in the honey house. A converted garage in the back corner of the yard painted the same hot flamingo shade as the rest of the house. Now and then sprays of rain flew over and misted our faces. Every time I refused to wipe away the wetness. It made the world seem so alive to me. I couldn't help but envy the way a good storm got everyone's attention. So what's she saying there? She couldn't help but envy the way a good storm got everyone's attention. So she is making a comment that she wishes that she got that much attention too, or that she could get that much attention. August went back into the kitchen and returned with 3 aluminum pie pans and handed them out. Come on, let's make a run for it. These'll keep our heads dry at least. August and I dashed into the downpour, holding the pans over our heads. Glancing back, I saw Rosalind holding the pie pan in her hand, missing the whole point. When August and I reached the honey house, we had to huddle in the door and wait on her. Rosalind glided along, gathering rain in the pan and flinging it out like a child would do. She walked on puddles like they were Persian carpets, and when a clap of thunder boomed around us, she looked up at the drowned sky, opened her mouth, and let the rain fall in. Ever since those men had beaten her, her face had been so pinched and tired, her eyes dull like they'd had the light knocked out of them. Now I could see she was returning to herself, looking like an all-weather queen out there, like nothing could touch her. If only she could get some manners. The inside of the honey house was one big room filled with strange honey-making machines. Big tanks, gas burners, troughs, levers, white boxes, and racks piled with waxy honeycombs. My nostrils nearly drowned in the scent of sweetness. Rosalind made gigantic puddles on the floor while August ran for towels. I stared at the side wall that was covered with shelves of mason jars. Peathed helmets with netting, tools, and wax candles hung from the nails. Near the front door, a thin veneer of honey lay across everything. The soles of my shoes stuck slightly as I walked. August led us into a tiny corner room in the back with a sink, a full-length mirror, one curtainless window, and 2 wooden cots made up with clean white sheets. I placed my bag on the first cot. May and I sleep out here sometimes when we're harvesting honey round the clock, August said. It can get hot, so you'll need to turn the fan on. Rosalind reached up to where it sat on a shelf along the back wall and flipped the switch, causing cobwebs to blow off the blades and fly all over the room. She had to pick them off her cheekbones. You need dry clothes, August told her. I'll air dry, Rosalind said, and she stretched out on the cot, making the legs on it bow. You'll have to come into the house to use the bathroom, August said. We don't lock the doors, so just come on in. Rosalind's eyes were closed. She had already drifted off and was making little puff noises with her mouth. August lowered her voice. So she fell down the steps? Yes, ma'am. She went down head first. Caught her foot in the rug at the top of the steps, the one my mother hooked herself. The secret of a good lie is don't overly explain and throw in one good detail. Well, Miss Williams, you can start work tomorrow, she said. I stood there wondering who she was talking to. Who was Miss Williams? When I remembered, I was Lily Williams now. That's the other secret to lying. You have to keep your story straight. Zach will be away for 1 week, she was saying. His family's gone down to Polly's Island to visit his mama's sister. If you don't mind me asking, what will I be doing? You'll work with Zach and me, making the honey, doing whatever needs doing. Come on, I'll give you the tour. We walked back to the large room with all the machines. She led me to a column of white boxes stacked one on top of the other. These are called the supers, she said, setting one on the floor in front of me and removing the lid. From the outside, it looked like a regular old drawer pulled out of a dresser, but inside were frames of honeycomb hung in a neat row. Each frame was filled with honey and sealed over with beeswax. She pointed her finger. That's the uncaper over there, where we take the wax off the comb. Then it goes through the wax melter over here. I followed her, stepping over bits and pieces of honeycomb, which is what they had instead of dust bunnies. She stopped at the big metal tank in the center of the room. This is the spinner, she said, patting the side like it was a good dog. Go on up there. Look in. I climbed up the 2-step ladder and peered over the edge, while August flipped a switch on an old motor on the floor, sputtered and cranked. The spinner started slowly, gaining speed like the cotton candy machine at the fair, until it was sending heavenly smells into the atmosphere. It separates out the honey, she said. Takes out the bad stuff, leaves in the good. I've always thought how nice it would be to have spinners like this for human beings. Just toss them in and let the spinner do its work. I looked back at her, and she was staring at me with her ginger cake eyes. Was I paranoid to think that when she'd said human beings, what she really meant was me? She turned off the motor, and the humming stopped with a series of ticking sounds. Bending over from the brown tube leading from the spinner, she said, From here it goes into the baffle tank, then over to the warming pan, and finally into the settling tank. That's the honey gate, where we fill the buckets. You'll get the hang of it. I doubted it. I'd never seen such a complex situation in my life. Well, I imagine you want to rest up like Rosalind. Supper's at 6. You like sweet potato biscuits? That's May's specialty. When she left, I lay on the empty cot while rain crashed on the tin roof. I felt like I'd been traveling for weeks, like I'd been dodging lions and tigers on a safari through the jungle, trying to get to the lost diamond city buried in the Congo, which happened to be the theme of the last matinee I'd seen in Sylvan before leaving. I felt that somehow I belonged here. I really did. But I could have been in the Congo for how unfamiliar it felt. Staying in a colored house with colored women eating off their dishes, lying on their sheets, it was not something I was against, but I was brand new to it, and my skin had never felt so white to me. T-Ray did not think colored women were smart. Since I want to tell the whole truth, which means even the worst parts, I thought they could be smart, but not as smart as me being white. Lying on the cot in the honey house, though, all I could think was August is so intelligent, so cultured, and I was surprised by this. That's what let me know I had some prejudice buried inside me. When Rosalind woke from her nap, before she had a chance to raise her head off the pillow, I said, "Do you like it here?" "I guess I do," she said, working to get herself to a sitting position. "So far." "Well, I like it too," I said, "so I don't want you to say anything to mess it up, okay?" She crossed her arms over her belly and frowned. "Like what?" "Don't say anything about the Black Mary picture I got in my bag, okay? And don't mention my mother." She reached up and started twisting some of her loose braids back together. "Now how come you want to keep that a secret?" I hadn't had time to sort out my reasons. I wanted to say because I just wanted to be normal for a little while. Not a refugee girl looking for her mother, but a regular girl paying a summer visit to Tiburon, South Carolina. I want time to win August over so she won't send me back when she finds out what I've done. And those things were true, but even as they crossed my mind, I knew they didn't completely explain why talking to August about my mother made me so uneasy. I went over and began helping Rosalind with her braids. My hands, I noticed, were shaking a little. "Just tell me you aren't going to say anything," I said. "It's your secret," she said. "You do what you want with it." We'll stop there for today.